He has come to bring light into the darkness. He has come.
All right. Honor and shame is an area that we just started studying. If you've been on my website, you know that I have a few people that help me with research. You know, Ryan White, Daniel McGurr, Matthew Mandarels, Tyler Rosenquist. The teaching, the information that I have is so vast and so much that I needed people to help me do research and keep me accountable. That was the whole idea. And I began to do a lot of anthropology. We studied anthropology, archaeology, ancient Near Eastern covenants, what else? Cosmology, all kinds of things we can think about in the ancient world we've looked into to try to bring a better context of Scripture from an overall perspective instead of a theological perspective. Now, we do believe that you can make theological decisions based on Scripture, for sure. But when you recognize that the Bible is a legal binding document, and then you start filling in the spots in certain stories in the Bible, then it makes sense. Because archaeology helps you understand the ancient settings. You know, cosmology covers areas of, you know, their belief about creation. You know, iconography and all the hieroglyphics and all the ancient drawings teaches you everyday life. And then anthropology is the area of everyday life and how they conduct themselves. The study of anthropology is fascinating. And there's a few writers, River Pipps and Jerome Neary and David De Silva and Molina, Bruce Winters. Within the concept of honor and shame, there's a huge amount of information that could really give us a greater understanding of the first century. Huge. I mean, my life has never been the same. As a matter of fact, I'm starting my master's program. I finished my bachelor's in May in Ancient Near Eastern Studies and Biblical History, and I'm starting my master's program now in August and September, and my whole thesis is going to be based on anthropology, honor and shame, connecting all the dots. And what's fascinating to me is that many of these guys, scholars, they're Christians. And they put all this information together, but they never make the connections to the Torah. I mean, it's fascinating. I talked to one of them. The guy's a Jesuit priest. He's a Jesuit priest. And I'm going like, really? And when you read this guy's book, everything he talks about from a scholarly perspective, not from a religious, is right on with anthropology, with ancient history and things like that. But they don't see the Torah. And they don't see the Torah. And I'm going like, there was another guy named Meredith Klein. Amazing books. And he's a Methodist. There was another guy who become like, I mean, I don't get it, you know. So, and then there are many archaeologists who just don't believe in God. So, isn't it amazing how the Lord uses the foolish to bring forth understanding? I mean, think about it. He uses people who try to diminish him. And by the way, that's a good article right here. Can I see it?
Oh, sorry.
I know the people who do it. As a matter of fact, one of my best friends just wrote an article. Brad is here, and also Diana Dye. You know, at the threshold of the temple. This one right here. Her name is Diana Dye, an outstanding teacher. She's a good friend. We're doing a conference next week. I'll be doing an article on this one coming up on honor and shame. So what you see here is what I'm going to be doing an article on this one. So a lot of these people, they just put in the information, they do all the research, they put it down, and they're scholars. They just want to bring out the information. And you know, and I think that in the last days, the Father has given us, the team that we're doing, they've given us the ability to take all of the research and say, oh, I get it. That's found here in the Torah. And that's found here in the book of Samuel. And that's found here in the Psalms. And that's found here over here. And sometimes they even tell you. Like for example, Meredith Klein made a comment about Sabbath. Mind you, he keeps Sunday, but he did the research and he made the comment about Sabbath, and he said, Sabbath is the proof, by keeping it, is the proof that God is the only creator of heaven and earth. And I'm going like, okay, I get it. Because it's become a theology. But when you put it as a legal binding document, for example, in the United States, they follow the 4th of July, this is the Day of Independence. It's a very important day of the Constitution of the United States, right? So they keep it. But if you make anything religious, they don't want to keep anything. But if you put the Torah as a legal binding document, as a constitution of the nation, then whatever holidays are there, they're the holidays of the nation. But people make it a religious thing. You see what I mean? So it's like in Puerto Rico, there was a small country, and we got the most holidays of any country around. Right? They like to party all the time. And all of a sudden now we have, they're willing to rest in all the secular days that are holy to them. But when it comes to the holy days of our King, they found fault with it. Isn't that crazy? So honor and shame is a very significant area that I highly recommend that you study. I'm going to quote only 3 books that I have with me, that I travel with. That's not including all the books I got on my phone. Okay, but these are the ones I'm researching right now that I really would recommend you get. This one is Roman Wives, Roman Widows by Bruce Winters. Wow. You want to understand Corinthians? You have to understand Corinthians from a honor and shame society perspective, patron-client relationships, and also Roman law and Roman criminal law to understand this. For example, according to Roman law, a man can sleep with another woman as long as she's not a Roman citizen. She can have sexual intercourse with a woman who is a slave woman or a free woman, or a woman at one of the parties that they throw for them, but he cannot have sex or intercourse with a woman who is a Roman citizen, because then that would be adultery. And Paul said, no, everything is adultery. A Roman man cannot have sex or intercourse with another man who is a Roman citizen, but he had permission to have intercourse with another man as long as he was not a Roman citizen. Paul says, no, it's all homosexuality. So if we don't study Roman law, then how can we understand the believers living under Roman imperial worship? So this is what I've been studying lately. This one is a really good one. It's called The Social World of the New Testament. Insights and Models. Fascinating book. This other one is written by Bruce Winters too. It's called After Paul Left Corinth. I'm going to do a whole research of this book on my website. I'm going to go through the book. I'm going to verify all the information. And the book is only a point of reference. But then when we go to the book of Corinthians, all of the arguments end. All the arguments end. Because what Paul is talking about, men praying with head on covers, if you cover your head, and praying and prophesying in public. Paul is not talking against Judaism of his day. He's talking about imperial worship and the way they used to honor their gods. He's talking about women, not uncovering their heads. You dishonor your husband. Well, that was a custom of Rome. There were 2 types of women in Rome. There was a new Roman woman and there was the modest woman. The new Roman woman is like the feminist movement nowadays. It came to be about 50 years before the 1st century, and it were women that were rich, they had money, and they rather do things on their own. And it's interesting because in one of the stories, there was one lady who didn't want to be married anymore. So what did she do? She removed her veil 3 days in a row. Because veil in the Roman society represented a modest woman who's married. if she uncovered her head in public, it brought shame to her. It brought shame to her in Roman culture. We're not talking about the Middle East, we're talking about Roman culture now. Okay? And it's interesting because now Paul is mentioning, he's saying, because they're dealing with the culture, he said, if you remove your veil in public to the believer, then they're going to do, might as well shave your head off, right? Doesn't he say that in Corinthians? Because adulterous women in Rome, if they in Crete, when they found a woman who was caught in adultery, they make them shave their hair off. So Paul is making a contrast. He's saying, if you're going to act like the women in Rome, like the loose women, and you uncover your hair, they're going to treat you as a prostitute and as a woman in adultery. Might as well shave off your head. He's bringing order. He's not talking against anything in Israel. He's talking against the culture of its time in Corinth. There was a time that Paul is saying in one place, he's saying in one place, do not eat meat sacrificed to idols. But then in another place says, well, just kill and eat. Just pray. If you don't know, just pray. Well, that sounds contradictory, right? Well, if you study the story of Corinth, you notice that was a huge imperial city, and the Jews, they had exemptions. The Jews had permission to worship in their synagogues every Sabbath. The Jews, even Asia Minor, they passed an edict in favor of the Jewish people that they would give them privileges. They didn't have to partake in imperial worship, in the festivals, and they did not have to eat the meat that everybody else eat. The society made a way for the Jewish people to have kosher meat that is not sacrificed to their idols. Well, that's the exemption. Well, with that exemption comes control by the government. Every time they want to control the Jews, what will they do? They take away the rights. So now there are times that they could not have the meat, the meat that was kosher. Well, it just so happened that around the same time, there's a great famine in Corinth. There was no food. All of that happening in Corinthians is happening during the time of the great famine. So now in the Torah there's a principle. Preservation of life overrides everything. Even the Sabbath. So let me ask you a question. If you live in a culture, there's famine, there's no food, and then all of a sudden you don't know what is kosher or not. I'm not talking about eating pork. I'm talking about meat, regular meat, or a lamb or whatever, sacrifice. You don't know what it is. He tells you, just pray and eat. Because there's famine. Because they're taking the principle of honor, of preservation of life. And that means that the problems that we're reading in Corinthians were specific problems for specific people in a specific location with specific issues that we never consider studying. And now we take those chapters and apply it to England in the 21st century. And now it creates division and an anti-Semitic attitude. Because we assume that Paul is talking to the Jewish people, when in fact he has no issues with the Jewish people in Corinth. He's talking to the believers in reference to the imperial worship. How many of you have never studied imperial worship of Rome? Raise your hand. Then with all due respect, you're going to be hard-pressed to fully grasp what Paul is trying to convey. Because have you ever studied the caste system of Rome in the first century? Are you aware of a caste system today in India?
Yes.
Now, did you know there was a caste system in Egypt? During the time of Israel? Did you know there's a caste system today? In your country and in America. But it's a social caste system. You know, they're still there. But in India, it's very important. The Dalit, when you saw the people that you ministered to, they were the scavengers and the bottom of the pile in India. The outcasts. And let me tell you, you see India, and I was watching this documentary because I was watching this, I was doing a teaching, and I'm thinking, why is it that the Orthodox today have such issues with the Gentiles coming into the faith? They will not accept us. Even though Paul tells us that we are citizens in the kingdom, that we are part of the Commonwealth of Israel, right? But I began to research it based on a debate that I had with a rabbi. And I say, wait a minute, what is the caste system in Rome? I never bothered to look into it. Never even thought about it. Well, you have Caesar, you have the patricians, you have the plebeians, you have the freedmen, and you have the slaves. Now, if you're a freedman and a slave, you have no rights. If you were a plebeian, then you have rights. You were a citizen, but you have to make sure you got a patron. You need a patron to lift up your status from a plebeian who, by the way, only 35 families who ruled Rome. They were all patricians. And they could all be the future Caesars, or they could be the senators and the leaders. So that means that only a structure, hierarchy. These people were it. Everybody else is nothing. So now you have two classes of people. You have the patricians, you have the plebeians. And did you know, by the way, that in Rome, they knew who you were and what class you belonged to based on what you were?
Yeah.
How many of you knew that?
Yeah.
Interesting, right? So can you imagine living a life that everything you wear, people knew that you were the bottom of the pile? I mean, imagine if you're a slave. People would treat you like a slave. Imagine if you're a freedman. People would treat you as a freedman. Okay, you're free, you're not a slave anymore, but you got no rights. And if you were a freedman, a woman, or a slave woman, you were treated as trash. You have no rights. They can do with you as they wish. Now the Torah, there's not a caste system in the Torah. The Torah has definite roles. It designs roles. The priests have a role. The kings have a role. The judges have a role. But everybody pays half a shekel. From the rich to the poor. Everybody heard the voice of God. And there was a mixed multitude. That's the integrity of my king. He's equitable. He's righteous to all. So now imagine Paul teaching the gospel to all mankind, because the God that he serves, through the work of Yeshua, is a God of righteousness and equity to all people. And then the system of religion will not allow for that to happen. They don't want the Gentiles to come in. I mean, God is so righteous that when Ruth came in to get the fields, there's a Torah commandment that says that do not harvest the corners of your fields. You let the strangers, the Gerim, not the Gentiles, the strangers who dwell within you, to harvest the corners of your fields. This is a very important protocol that America and England does not understand. You see, God made a way for every person in Israel to have access to the blessings of their king, even for the stranger. But he did not entitle them, because even the stranger, they needed to go and harvest it. They had limited rights, but they were equitable. In other words, they eat that, you can eat that. But you can't get all the blessings, because that's for the covenant people. But you dwell among us, I'm still going to let you partake a little of the blessing. And by the way, Israel, you're supposed to treat them with equity. Remember that when you were strangers in Egypt, what were they in Egypt? The bottom of the pile. They were slaves in Egypt. They had no rights. They were oppressed. They were trash. And now what does the Lord do? He gives them the tzitzis with the blue in it. Everybody, all the male. Why? So now they can feel like they're royalty in the eyes of the king. According to the Egyptian legend, only the priests can hear the voice of their gods. Only the priests and their kings. That's it. And what does the Lord tell us in the covenant in Exodus 19? If you obey my voice, if you keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar people, a holy nation, and a kingdom of priests. And what happened on that chapter? They all heard the voice of God. Can you imagine coming from the bottom of the pile of the caste system in Egypt? Years of slavery, oppression, degradation, and then he brings them all as one people. He reveals himself to all as one, and then he lets everybody hear his voice. When they were taught in Egypt that only the elite and only the priests can hear the voice of their gods. That's the king I serve. Okay, so that now we come into the kingdom and we make a distinction between one or the other. So now you have the plebeians, patricians, the plebeians, you have the freedmen, you have the slave men, you have the woman, you have the man, and in ancient Rome, the laws are not the same. Women, if you were not a Roman citizen, you're done. You have no rights. Oh, check this out. If I invite you to a party, because you're looking for patronage, that's another part of honor and shame concept that we're going to cover, not today, tomorrow. It's called patron-client relationship. Vassal and sovereign. When we accept the Yahweh, He becomes our patron. We are His clients. Do you have celebrations in England about patron saints days? Yeah. You have those? Do they do festivals and things like that? They're Catholic celebrations. Yeah. You know Mardi Gras? That's a Catholic celebration. That's imperial worship. Carnival, the same thing. In Latin America, I'm from Puerto Rico. We have 78 municipalities, right? Municipals, areas. I don't know what you call it in England. Counties. Okay? In every county in Puerto Rico, for about a week, the Catholic Church sets up what is called patron saints fiestas patronales. Patron feast. I mean, even the name tells you. So for that week and a half, all of the food, all of the entertainment, all of the stuff that goes on, people getting drunk and all that stuff, is in honor of the patron of the time. And there are thousands of Christians that go to those meetings. And they go to the celebration, not understanding they are partaking of imperial worship. It's crazy. Believers going to Mardi Gras and going to Carnival and doing all this stuff. And they don't understand that they're in gross idolatry. They just broke the covenant. Right? So, let's get this straight. So, you would agree with me then that you have not had the chance to look into imperial worship in the first century, or what is honor and shame in the context of patron and client, or the caste system of Rome. A lot of those things are new to you today? Yeah. Okay, so that's the problem we're having understanding the New Testament. Because then, remember I told you the system, the caste system in Rome? Like in India, you have the Brahmins. Then you have the, I forgot how to pronounce it, by something. And then you have another side. And then you have the Dalit, all the way on the bottom. Do you know the Dalit, the word Dalit comes from a Hebrew? That means broken. I mean, it's interesting that Gandhi, who comes from an upper caste of India, he called the Dalits the sons of God. When the whole thing, he was relevant back then. But in fact, even Gandhi would consider them as scavengers. Because that's the way that it was done in India. Even to this day, they have no rights. Like a Dalit, if he goes through a village of somebody higher than them, they have to remove their shoes when they walk through. Anybody from India here? Ask people that come from India. Recently said, tell me about the caste system in India. I'm telling you, you'll be shocked. If they're really honest, they'll tell you. You know what it is that a person who's a Dalit, they cannot sit on the chair like you and I. If they go through my community, I'm higher caste. I'm not supposed to even touch them. Marry into their family. And if they sit on a chair, they're making themselves equal with you. You beat them up. They sit on the floor. And they have to remove their shoes. Today! Now imagine taking the gospel, not the regular gospel we've been taught, but taking the equity and justice of our King, the Torah, and talk to the people in India and tell them, in the kingdom of my King, there's not such a structure. There's equity for all people. Yes?
James, the book of James.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Now makes sense. That's exactly what he's talking about. Go back and read the book of James in the context of honor and shame. Well, let's look at a verse before I get into this. I'm telling you from another teaching, but I think it's all relevant anyway. I'm trying to pique your interest to hopefully allow me to share more of this with you. Let's go to Galatians chapter 3. This is a verse that everybody uses to say we don't have to follow Torah. We don't have to follow Torah. Crazy. Now remember I told you about the caste system, right? When we study the honor and shame tomorrow, the foundation, I'm only going to teach you one aspect of it today, which is called honor status reversal. But tomorrow we're going to cover all the ascribe honor. Who can't come tomorrow? You're going to miss the best one, sorry. Okay, so ascribe honor, acquired honor, challenge and repost, keeping honor by form of an oath, honor status reversal. All those things are found in the New Testament, in all the letters of Paul. But we never recognize them. Okay? So now, let's review real quickly. Remember, in Imperial Rome, there was a caste system. All of the kingdom was like that. Okay, so check this out. So now, in verse 26 of chapter 3, it says, "For you all are sons of God through faith in Yeshua the Messiah." Now, I got to remember, citizenship in Rome was highly respected. If you were a Roman citizen and somebody dared to harm you, they're harming not only you, but the whole system. That's why when Paul says, "Excuse me guys, I'm a Roman citizen." Excuse me, the captain of the guard freaked out. Because they knew you mess with a Roman citizen, that's an affront to the whole kingdom. I mean, it was an honor to have the citizenship of Rome. Because then you have full rights. Now you can be within the plebeians and the patricians. Now you got rights. You are somebody. You got honor. Because you see, in the ancient world, honor and shame is what mattered. Not guilt and innocence like the Western world works. I'm going to show you how relevant that is. So verse 27 says, "For as many as you were baptized into Messiah, have put on Messiah." Read it with me. "There is neither Jew or Greek, there is neither slave or free, there is neither male or female, for you are all one in Messiah, Yeshua," verse 29, "and if you are Messiahs, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." Now, to us, that's just a verse in Galatians. But to the Galatians, when they heard that from Paul, they're going to get all excited. Why? Because they live in an oppressive caste system that only certain people have all the rights and all the honor, and the slaves and the women and the freedmen have no rights whatsoever, and they have no land whatsoever. They have no honor. And then Paul is telling them, there's neither any of those things in the kingdom. You're all one in Messiah. And if you are Messiah, then you are Abraham's seed. Wait a minute. That is ascribed honor. He just lifts up the honor of those people that are outcasts to the level of inheritance. Why? Because in Rome, when you were of lower status, you would look for somebody of a greater status to become your patron. Every single one of us did that when you came from your country here. England became your patron to bring you where? From your country. And you partake of all the blessings. I did the same thing. I'm a U.S. citizen. So I get all the blessings of a U.S. citizen, and I'm proud to be an American. I really am. You know, and I'm very zealous for American values and things like that. I mean, the right ones, not the ones today. You know? And I value, you know why? Because I'm not from America. I was born in Puerto Rico. We were a commonwealth. So even though I'm not a native born, but I am a what? I have acquired honor because we lost the war against Spain in 1898. See, so now Puerto Rico becomes part of America. I'm not a native born, but I have equal rights according to the Constitution. That's exactly what it's saying here. Paul is saying, are you saved by following, by keeping the law? Salvation is not by keeping the law. Salvation is by grace. It's a gift of the King. Obedience to the Torah brings blessings. Right? Correct? And then, by the way, and if you believe in Yeshua as your master, he becomes what? What does the Bible call Yeshua in the book of Hebrews? A mediator, right? A broker. He is a patron, and now he's going to take you to a greater patron. He's going to revert your status from somebody from another country to the sons of the living God. Talk about a transformation of where you are, where you were. If you were a foreigner in Rome, if you were a slave in Rome, you could never have any hope to get out of that system. Go to India and talk to the Dalit. They don't have any hope to get out of that system. The only way they can get out is by marrying into somebody into a greater caste. But the chaos that would happen is a nightmare for both families. Because if a higher end family will marry a lower end family, it brings their status down, not up. You understand what I'm saying? And we've seen that in the racial tensions, and we've seen that in money social status. Somebody real rich marries somebody really poor, then all chaos happens. Then after a while, the poor person now starts acting like the rich guy, and the poor person forgets about the poor people, and now he's amongst all the elite, and now he's acting like those people after he received grace. It's the same thing that happens to us. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So now this verse, in its context, is trying to, Paul is presenting the other option. Do you want to have the caste system of a religion? Or you want to have the caste system of the system of Rome? Or do you rather have the equity of our God, Yahweh, in His Torah to all mankind? Yes, sir?
It's summed up in Psalms 113, verses 5 to 7, where it says, may I read this, everybody?
Sure.
The Lord is high above all nations, and His glory above the heavens. Who is like unto the Lord our God, who dwelleth on high, who humbleth himself to behold the things that are in heaven and in the earth? He raiseth up the poor out of the dunghill, and lifteth the needy out of the dunghill, that He may set him with princes, even the princes of His people.
Wait a minute. And I haven't seen that psalm first. Give me that verse. I need that reference.
Okay?
What is that?
Psalm 113.
Psalm 1,
113.
1, 1 to 3. Psalm 1?
113.
Oh, 103.
113.
113.
Oh, 113. I'm sorry. Man, let's read that again, please.
Okay. The Lord, who is like unto the Lord our God, our Elohim, who dwelleth on high, who humbleth himself to behold the things that are in heaven and in the earth. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the needy out of the dunghill, that He may set him with princes, even the princes of His people.
You see what I thank you? I've never seen that verse before. And I teach them this. I haven't even thought about that song. Man, that's awesome. That proves exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Man, I've never seen that one before. I've got to put that in. Because that, talk about finishing and teaching with that. It's like, that's my key, you see? And that's why, by the way, let's examine Yeshua for a minute. What did Yeshua come to do? Who did He eat with? Who did He hang out with?
Yes.
He came to do exactly what the Psalm says. He came to take the poor
Yes.
out of that system that the system have oppressed when Israel is supposed to be a nation of equity and righteousness. You know, there's a difference between equity and equality. People want equal rights for everybody. No, you can have equal rights for everybody. There's got to be equity, because if you only need $50 or 50 pounds, and they need 100 pounds, equality says that they have to have the same. But their needs are different. There's got to be equity. See, in the Torah, there's equity. The stranger had a part to gather the harvest. And it tells you, when you're grabbing the sheaf, and you're grabbing by, and you drop something, don't pick it up. Let them get it. You know what I mean? I mean, the Torah is not a hangout, it's not a handout thing. That's why we got to help the homeless, the widows, the strangers, but we're not to entitle them, we're to empower them. And by the way, Paul is dealing with a particular problem, right? You know, Paul talks about widows, and he's trying to define what widows are. And he says, well, if you're a widow, he said an age. What was the age that he said? 60, right? And then he has some protocols of what is a good widow. You know why? Because in Imperial Rome, there were widows as young as 18 years old. Because of war. They were waging war to preserve the kingdom for hundreds of years. So now they lose a war, and thousands of men lose their lives. Now you have young girls that used to marry by the time they were 15 years old, and now they're 18, 20, and 21, and they're widows. So Paul is saying, if you're not 60, get a job. Because we can take care of an 18-year-old widow, and all she's doing is just creating problem in the congregation. Get married. You know what I mean? You see, but if we don't study the history, we don't make connections. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
Were you going to ask something else? Yes?
No, it's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Honor and shame in scriptures. 3 o'clock, I got 2 hours. Let's go through this. Honor and shame. North America, Europe, Australia are guilt and innocent-based society. That is true. Let me give you the example of something that's relevant to you here, that you've already you've seen and you have experienced, and you're living it more than anybody else, even more than in America today. Islam. Okay? They're not your friends. Sorry. Any Muslims here, they'll get offended, will get offended because they're not your friends. You know that. If you tell you they are, they're lying to you. Because if you study Quran, then you know what it says. Okay? The hadith and all that, like I had to do. Okay? So they're not your friends. They're going to impose their will, they're going to kill you in the process, and we're such nice people because we want the best out of everybody. That's the way it goes. What is the number one reason for their complaint? You killed our wives, our children, and you take our properties. If you listen to what they say, it's about the restoration of their honor. What did ISIL do? What did they do when they took over Syria? They destroyed the borders. And they quoted history of the 1920s, 1930s. Balfour Declaration, and also the Versailles, the treaty. And also Pike's something. Pike's, I forgot the guy's name. But they destroyed the borders. Why? Colonization in the Muslim world was a great act of shame towards them. They divided their lands, they divided their tribes. Some of the families stayed on the other side of the border. They could not see the thing. They were oppressed. Colonization brought a lot of stuff for them, but also brought shame. And the Western world never realized that. And then when they wanted their own identity, they wanted their own independence, they did not give it to them. So that's why there was civil war, because they took one of the things that we remember in Africa and also in the Eastern world, as well as in India and China, is that shame is huge and honor is huge. Honor killings. You should know this. Because if a young Muslim woman goes around sleeping around with just anybody, then the community is not going to have anything to do with that family and with that young girl until there's an honor killing. Makes no sense to us, but in their mind, they need to restore their name. You see, in the ancient world, the man was responsible for the honor of the family, the woman was responsible for the purity of the family. That's why in the Torah, women are not allowed to be priestesses in the temple. Women are not allowed to be priestesses in the temple. And many women have issues with that. They say, well, how come women are not allowed to do anything in the temple? Because in the ancient world, women were used as temple prostitutes. And the Lord our God is so righteous and so just that He doesn't want the women of Israel to be looked at as prostitutes just like all the nations. He says, no, in Israel, women are not priestesses. You see? It puts them in a place of honor. That's why in the Torah you must be a virgin before you get married. Why? Because in ancient Mesopotamia, I pray that's just blessings of the Lord falling on us. Amen? So in ancient Mesopotamia, there was a particular ritual, right? A particular ritual that said, a woman once in her lifetime, she needs to go and she got to stop either at the gate of the city or the gate of the temple, and any male that will come through will throw any kind of money on her lap, and then she will get up. Didn't matter whether he was ugly, skinny, fat, good looking and smelly. It didn't matter. She had to get up and have sex with him. And then she would take that money and offer it to that particular goddess in the temple. But we see this in the Bible. And the book of Deuteronomy tells me that the wage of a prostitute is not accepted on my altar. It's only one commandment. And you wonder, how come there's that commandment there? Because they used to do temple prostitutions in the ancient world. We saw that in Baal Peor. We saw that in Baal Peor. When Pinchas killed Simri and Cosby. Give me a second. Simri and Cosby, right? You know why did Pinchas kill her on the spot? You know what his job was? He was a temple guard, threshold protector. His duty was to protect the sanctity of the temple. He did exactly what he was told to do. Okay? But then we have the story of Judah and Tamar.
Yes.
She's sitting at the gate of the city. He thinks she's a prostitute. And then she asks for money. Remember? All of the evidence is there. We just never go back to the context. Yes, sir?
Should churches think twice before doing a gathering based on what you said about about prostitutes' earnings being polluting the temple?
Huh?
If we go around knocking doors asking for donations, every year certain churches have in gatherings. They go and ask for money.
I remember, let me give you an example that probably fits this a little better. There was this particular congregation I belonged to, and I stopped going after that. One of the reasons that they were all against, strippers and all that stuff, right? Nightclubs and things like that. But they're doing Christmas. They were doing a Christmas drive, getting toys for the needy and the homeless, right? That's what the church was doing. It was a huge church. Well, the strippers, the girls dancing, they were still human beings. They still wanted to do something nice. So amongst all of them, they collect the money that they earned dancing, and they bought toys and they brought it to the church, and the church accepted it. That's exactly what you're trying to say. Not only are they going to keep their own holiday, now they're accepting the thing from people prostituting their bodies. That's exactly what is not accepted in the Torah. You see what I mean? Is this making sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so now, so I was talking about Islam. I just saw a movie on Facebook of 3 men, or 2 men, I can't remember, that in India, they were drivers, and they were trying to rape women. There's a huge rape problem in India. And I could never understand why there was a rape problem like that. I understand it now. Because if a man of a higher caste sees the women Dalit as trash, they're not going to value them. So they will abuse them. And to them, they're justified. Because that's the way the society works. It's crazy. Right? And the Torah says, no, if you're guilty of that, you die. You're profaning her, and you're profaning her family. Let me give you an example of honor and shame in the Bible that it's difficult for us to understand. The story of Jacob and Dinah. Right?
Yes.
It always puzzled me how Jacob would give his daughter, who the king raped, the prince raped, give him the daughter after he raped her. I'm thinking, what? I mean, you raped my daughter, we're having problems. And it's not going to be good problems. I mean, that's defiling my family, you know what I mean? But there was a law in ancient Mesopotamia, and remember that those laws were prevalent all throughout the whole world. The Torah has not been given yet as a constitution yet. There was a law that I found in the ancient Near East that it says that if a young girl, a virgin, goes astray, walking, playful, going around, hanging in the places she's not supposed to without someone keeping her company, and she gets raped, then the father cannot collect her dowry because she was not doing what was right. If you read the story of Dinah, she was wandering all by herself. Come on, tell me you're getting this.
Yes.
Okay? Now, what's interesting is, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, it sounds so heartless of Jacob. But in the ancient world, women were liability. I'm sorry, ladies, that's the way it was. They were liability. Why? Because now you have to take care of them forever. Okay? And you're hoping that they get married. And you notice they were arranged marriages. You know why? Because of the honor and shame system. If you marry her into a shameful family, then your daughter and you carry the shame of that family. So you want to make sure that the family that she goes into was a good family with a good name, hoping that their name was greater with more honor so that your daughter can lift your honor. It happened in the story of Esther. Esther married the king, thus lifting the whole honor of all of Israel. Because when she revealed herself, I'm a daughter of the children of Israel, guess what? Now, if the queen is an Israelite, then all the servants, Jewish, they have the same privilege. Now they're going to have honor. Are you with me?
Yes.
Interesting stuff?
Yes.
A little different, right?
Yes.
Okay, what was I lost my train of thought.
History lesson.
Yeah, but you're going to see how important the history is going to be relevant to what Yeshua did for us on the cross. I'm telling you, I pray this teaching, I'm going to give you my best. I'm going to go as long as I can. I'm getting tired. But I'm going to go as long as I can because, if anything, this teaching right here is going to put in perspective what we learned this morning. Okay, so, what was I saying?
You're saying
Jacob. So now Jacob, he needs to do what? Women were a liability. If you only have girls, you're in trouble. That's why when Laban saw Jacob, he adopted him right away. He said, dude, you got to come in my house. You know? I mean, when Zipporah, the wife of Moses, when Moses went out there, and they were all girls, hey Moses, remember the father of Zipporah says, go get him! Go get the guy, what's wrong with you, woman? Go get that guy. Yo, Moses, which one you want? You know, pick! Because that would help him. That will help protection. It would help the father. That if he dies, he has an heir, and he will bring protection to his daughters. So imagine if you have no boys, you have a huge farm, and now your father dies, who guarantees that you're going to be protected? So it was more for your protection. So Jacob is more concerned about his honor and her honor. Can you imagine a young girl living her life with a child, a bastard child, because the king, the king raped her, the prince raped her, and she has no husband now. So the children of Israel made it quite difficult. Says, yo man, if you want to marry my sister, circumcision. It kind of backfired on them. Okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And they did it. And I tell you, Dina must have been really good looking. Can you imagine? The king says, okay guys, you all gotta get circumcised because I'm in love and I gotta marry that girl. Talk about respecting their king. That's crazy, right? They all did it. But the whole reason why Jacob was trying to give her in marriage is to preserve her honor and the honor of his family. Because in the ancient world, Dinah living her life in this honor. That's why does the Bible mention Dinah anywhere after that? No. Because she lived the rest of her life in shame. She was raped. And if she had any children, does the Bible say she had any children? It doesn't mention anything. Now Judaism says, that's what Judaism says, that the daughter of Potiphar, the wife of Joseph, was a descendant of Dinah. That's what Judaism says. I don't agree with that. But that's just what it is. So, whatever. But anyway, so he's trying to protect their honor. Have you ever wondered why the Bible says that Adam and Eve were naked and were not ashamed? The book of Genesis. Think about it. Why do I need to know that Adam and Eve are naked? Think about it. I don't care if they're naked. I mean, do I need to know they're naked? You read that and you go like, no, I don't want to imagine that. It's a normal behavior, every human being. It's a subliminal message, right? Say, Adam and Eve were naked. No, I can't think like that. No! And they were not ashamed. But then when they sin, they're ashamed. You want to know why Reuben slept with Jacob's handmaid? Have you ever thought about that? What propelled this guy to disrespect his father in that fashion? Well, think about it. Reuben is the firstborn of Leah. I mean, Jacob gave the first birthright to Joseph. He was the firstborn of Rachel, not of Leah. And it was the firstborn of the family, Reuben, and Reuben felt disrespected and dishonored, right?
Yes.
And how did Joseph was honored? By giving the new garments.
Yes.
And those garments represented honor, distinction, leadership,
Yes.
headship. And if you notice the story in chapter 30 of the book of Genesis, the whole story is all around the garments. They see Joseph, they remove his garments. They throw him naked in the pit. Then he goes to Egypt. And then they show the garments to Jacob. So now, Reuben feels disrespected, dishonored, even worse. Because now he cannot live without shame. I'm the firstborn and my father does not recognize me as the leader. I mean, that made no honor in the ancient world. That was like slap in the face. In the honor and shame society, when you shame somebody, they don't come out like screaming at you and tell you stuff. Americans do that. In an honor and shame society, they don't do that. They're more discreet. They do things behind closed doors. You know, they're trying to save face, and then they try to shame you some other way. Right? Well, Reuben did the same thing. He said, I'm going to show my father. What did he do? He slept with a handmaid in his tent. See, in our mind in the Western world, we don't quite understand it. But in the Eastern concept, when Reuben felt shamed in the front of the whole family forever, he's trying to get what? He's trying to show his father, you shame me, I'm going to shame you. Wrong thing to do. Right? They shamed Joseph, and then Joseph was exalted. He was naked, and then he was dressed by Pharaoh. Anyway, so I think you get in the picture, right?
Yes.
Now, in an honor and shame, let's compare the both systems. Honor and shame, innocent and guilt. In an honor and shame society, honor is based on social value and perception. Social value and perception versus innocent and guilt is based on inner conviction, right or wrong. This whole, same-sex marriage stuff in America about equality, you're going to have to do something about polygamists now. I mean, if it's all about equality, that means that I have the right to marry more than one wife. Because it's about equality. If anything, compare the two. 2 men, 2 women getting married, that's okay. But 1 man and 2 women can't do that. They can't procreate, they can. You follow what I'm saying? I'm not justifying, I'm just saying that now America's got a huge, problem in their hands. And they think that's equality? No. That's destruction. Because then everybody is going to say, well, if this is about equality. Listen, I don't have a problem. I'm going to make sure you understand where I'm coming from. I don't have a problem with gay people. I met gay people as people. Really nice people. Nice people. But I will not endorse their lifestyle. And I do not agree with the lifestyle. And the lifestyle is sinful. Just as the lifestyle of a prostitute. She can be a nice person, but the lifestyle of a prostitute is sinful. A drug addict can be the nicest guy in the world. But drugs and getting on drugs and committing crimes is sinful. So I don't have a problem with the person. I have a problem with the lifestyle. Correct?
Yes.
Will any of you have any problems with that?
No.
Because if there is a homosexual person running across the street and they need help, they need help, we must help them. Even if there's a Muslim right across the street who need food and need help, we must help them. Because it's about righteousness and justice. Just because I disagree with their theology doesn't mean that if they don't have a need of a life and death person, we must help them. Because then they'll ask you, why do you do this for me? And then you have the opportunity to tell them about the righteousness and justice of your King. Returning hate with hate is not going to help anything. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay, so don't confuse one or the other. No, I'm not going to invite you to my house to have dinner with me. No. I draw the line. My threshold belongs to the God of Israel. But if you have a need, and I need to help you, if you need to take you to the hospital, I will take you. If your life is in danger, I will defend you. Okay? Because we have a mandate from the Lord to do righteousness and justice. Now, if you want to join the God of Israel, you're my brother. But you see the difference? That's the same thing in everything we do. But we also have to remember what honor and shame is. And by the way, that's a position that I've changed in the last 6 years. I had to mature a lot. Because I'm very zealous. It wasn't through all the studies that I realized that I was wrong. That I was teaching something that I was wrong. I was letting my zeal for the Lord cloud my perspective of what mercy really is. If the Father gave me mercy, and my wife made mention to this, by the way. My wife says, Rico, didn't the Lord have mercy on Nineveh? I say, yes. And he goes, well, have we read chapter 4 of the book of Jonah? I say, no. He says, Jonah did not want to go to a people because they were ruthless. But yet, the Lord says, there are 120,000 of them who doesn't know the right from the left. Why would you not go to them? What if God wants to have mercy on them using you doing it? Wow, talk about a slap in the face. I said, that is true. If the Lord had mercy on Nineveh, a pagan nation, Jonah didn't want to go, he ended up going. And even after he went, he was not happy about it. But it didn't matter whether or not you're happy about it or not. Whether or not you can also represent the message of the Father. That's what matters, whether we like it or not, right? So we have to mature in the sense that we want to be zealous for the Torah, we want to stand up for what is true, we want to honor our King, but we can never lose the essence of what makes our King so righteous and so just. Mercy, faith, loving kindness, righteousness. Yes? Yes. And know the difference when to stand up and say enough, but always extend that love, always extend that righteousness and say, you need something to eat, I can help you. I know we may not agree. You don't serve the same God that I do, but the God that I serve is the one feeding you right now. Right? So I thought the God that you serve is supposed to take care of you. I have a problem with America sitting idle, not helping the Christians in Iraq right now. I have a huge problem with them. How is it possible that we're supposed to be nations, who stand up for righteousness, and we're not standing up against the aggressors and the oppressors? It's sad what it's come to, And it's a story repeated over and over. And an honor-shame society is concerned with maintaining honor versus concerned with justice being served. Honor, listen, right now in America we have something peculiar going on. It's shameful. The enemy now are the cops, the police. Police cannot do anything because now they're the bad guys. Now there was one kid who came out, he robbed a store, he beat up the owner of the store, and then he confronted the police officer. He got shot, he died. There was a whole riot on that. On some guy who was robbing the store, abusing people. A thug. I don't know if that's a bad word here. Okay? And he's a hero. Are we out of our minds? I mean, right now in Baltimore, there was huge riots. And I don't understand it. The president is black. The mayor of Baltimore is black. The state attorney, the United States attorney is black. We can't say we're oppressing anybody. We're giving equal rights to everybody. And they got into office, so be it. Do the job. It's no problem. Well, when one guy killed himself going to the jail, now the mayor did not allow the police to do the work. Gave them room to express themselves, to destroy billions of dollars worth of stuff. And now they're wondering, why is it that the police now in Baltimore, murder and everything has skyrocketed since that thing? If I'm a police officer, and everything I do is going to send me to jail, you want to kill somebody? Go ahead. And you want to steal that? No problem. I just watch. Because if I touch you, there are going to be riots, and then I'm in the back. That's crazy. That's the difference between honor and shame, innocent guilt. Because if it was about honor and shame, no one would have celebrated that young man who stole in the store, regardless of the race. I could care less what race. Whether you're white, you're yellow, you're black, I don't care. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, if that guy would have never robbed the store, never beat that guy out, and never confronted the police officer, he would have never died. Right? If he would have been, if America was an honorable country focusing on honor, they would have never celebrated that. But we are in a shameful state. Remember the speech of the president in 2009 or 2008 in Cairo? How many of you saw that? Did you saw that speech of the President Obama? I did. The moment I saw the speech, I told my wife, we need to start getting ready. The moment I saw the speech, I knew all hell would break loose in the Middle East. Because what he said, you don't go to a Muslim country and start apologizing for the things that you did. Because then you lose space and you become shameful. And then they will not respect you. And what happened? All hell broke loose. You know, the next thing was Benghazi. And I'm showing you all of these historical things that happened. Not historical, the real events that happened just recently to understand why the world is turning the way it is. Because we don't quite understand in the Western world that the whole world works in honor and shame society. We don't get it. We want to impose our will, our democracy, and when I hear a Muslim country changing government says, oh, we're going to establish democracy, I start laughing. Anybody who understands the religion of Islam knows that Islam will never accept a democracy. It's a theocracy. But all the politicians believe it. And when he did that speech, Benghazi, what an affront to the sovereignty of America. Not only did they destroy the embassy, which is sovereign territory of the United States, but they killed the messenger, the ambassador. Did you realize what would happen in the ancient world if a king sends a messenger to another place and they kill the messenger? That was a declaration of war on the king. And when nothing happened, and we did nothing about it, I don't think you wanted to be around me that whole 3 weeks there. I was not happy. Because I was expecting for Americans to get up and say, oh, is that how it is? Let me throw a few bombs at you and see how it goes. You don't mess with us. Not because we want to declare war, but because the message is, you're going to transgress against our honor, we have to restore our honor. And the king of Jordan did it. The king of Jordan, when they burned that soldier, what did he do? He restored the honor of the family and his country by taking action. That's the only way they function, is when you take action against them. That's the way they function. You know, because it's about honor. We don't understand what that is anymore. And you know what's really sad? We don't understand it in the Bible. We don't get it in Scripture. The whole book of Revelation is about the restoration of honor. The Antichrist comes, he defiles the body of Messiah, bringing shame to the body of Messiah. Thus the Father stands up and he sends his messenger Yeshua to restore the honor of his people, returning unto the land, restoring all the ancient path, so that now the whole world must recognize that Yahweh is an honorable God, that he does not forget his people.
Amen.
Honor and shame. Read the book of Revelation from honor and shame. The book of Exodus, the whole tribulation in Exodus, is a competition of honor. See, the Hebrews become slaves in Egypt. They are oppressed, right? They cry out to their king. Their king answers with a redeemer, a messenger. Remember? They never killed Moses. I mean, think about it. How come Pharaoh never killed Moses? I mean, this guy is bringing all the calamity there. He's bringing the message of this God. I mean, it would have been easy just to kill Moses and Aaron. Just get rid of this guy, then we don't hear from that guy. You understand what I mean? But how come they never killed Moses and Aaron? Because they were the messengers of the great king. And according to the ancient world, you cannot kill the messengers. That would be an affront to that king. They're already suffering as it was. Right? So now you have the Exodus. You have an oppressed people. And now Moses says, I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what did Pharaoh say? Well, I don't know your God. Right? Are you doing okay so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know your God. So Moses said, well, allow me to introduce him to you. You know, and then what did he do? What did the God of Israel do? He began to declare systematic war on the worship system of the Egyptians. Everything that they worship, he annihilated. Thus saying, I'm the one who deserves all the honor, not your gods. And that's how Israel was able to see that the God of Israel was a true one. It's all about competition of one. Amen? All right, let's move on. I'm taking too long. Now, watch this. In the ancient world, as well as in the first century, you find something really interesting. It was a zero-sum society system. Zero-sum economy. They believed that honor was only restricted to certain types of people. Okay? It's like in a caste system in India, the Dalit, they believe, and they know their place in society, and they rather live in their misery than try to become more. So only a few people can do it, but they go against all odds. Right? But it's interesting that in the first century, they all believed that honor was only certain people. Did you know that in Israel there's only 5,000 Pharisees? How many of you thought that all of Israelites were Pharisees? Many people think that. Did you know that only 5,000 to 6,000 of the Israelites were Pharisees in the first century? But then you have different groups. You have the Nazarenes, the believers in Yeshua. Then you have the Sadducees, that were the priestly line. Then you have the Herodians, that's a political group. Then you have the Zealots, they're the revolutionary group. Then you have the regular Israelites that were poor farmers, that the Pharisees, some branches of the Pharisees would not teach because they were poor. The house of Shammai would only teach the rich and the smart people. The house of Hillel would teach everybody. You know? So now what we have here is a problem of a caste system and how they believe that only certain people have honor, and that's it. So what did Yeshua come to do? He came to hang out with everybody. He hung out with everybody. He ate with the poor. He fed them. He took care of them. He took care of the widows. He took care of the homeless. He took care of those people. Why? Because society were not giving them the honor they deserve. And Yeshua is a representative of the great King who is righteous and just and equitable. And now he is saying, I'm going to restore your honor. You missed it. I'm going to restore your honor. I'm going to reverse your status. Because I'm the messenger of the King. You believe in the God that I serve, then he will restore you, and he'll give you honor. And now imagine now when they take the gospel to a world ruled by a caste system. Imagine going to India right now, Marcus, learning this, right? And then you go to India and you start presenting honor and shame to the Dalit. And you tell them, in the kingdom of my God, it's equitable. He's not just giving them something to eat for a short term. But that's only part of it. But then when you tell them, in the kingdom of God, we are all one. And that's what you've done. You sit there, you eat with them, you live with them. That's why they're so appreciated. Because in their system, they don't have the Brahmins doing that with them. You understand? That's why when you go over there and you help them out, there's even in Africa, you know, you go over there and you help them out. The problem is that we have entitled people instead of empowerment. That's what's going on in Puerto Rico. $72 billion in debt. 72 billion. It's a little bitty island, 100 miles long, 36 miles wide. 3.5, 3.6 million people. $72 billion in debt. 70% of the population, their entitlement programs. How in the world? I cannot believe it. That we are no longer an honor of people that can go and work the fields anymore. You know, we have to live by the government. Oh, the worst thing is now they don't want the United States. Yeah, they say, well, we want our own independence. Oh, we don't want to be under the Americans. But then when the hurricanes comes through, where are the Americans? We need our help. We got a problem. We're entitled. Okay, and I submit to you that the whole system of Christianity is an entitlement program. Because they oppress some of the people to go help other people. You can't do that. We have to entitle people to come up. We have to empower them to come up, not entitle them. Now, mind you though, in Christianity, and I'm going to do this teaching tomorrow, they have done a lot of things that we've lacked to do now in the Hebrew roots. They go help the needy, the homeless, and the widows. And we used to do that when we were in the church. We used to give it all to do it. Now we come to the Torah, we knew a little Hebrew, we knew so much. And all we do is argue about this stuff, and we forgot about what God told us to do. We forgot to help those in need, to raise their level of honor. Not treat them like leftovers. Now, I remember in this church that I used to go to, they say, oh, we're collecting cans for the poor. And the sad thing, the shameful thing, the pastor one time stood up and said, guys, will you please don't bring cans that are expired food? I mean, think about that. Somebody says, oh, I'm bringing food to the poor. Just throw 4 or 5 cans in there, right? And he just went through the whole, shelf looking for the expired food to give to the poor. Might as well don't give anything, please. You're treating them as animals? Food that you don't even eat yourself? Where's the equity? Treat them with dignity. Treat them with dignity, because my God treats me with dignity. So who are we to treat people less than that? See, that's the problem. Honor and shame changes everything. That's why I make an effort to talk to every single one. I don't want to put myself on a pedestal. I'm a teacher, so what? I'm just a human being like you, having to deal with issues every day, and making sure that I stay on the right path to do what is correct. You show me respect, I show you respect, because we have different roles, but other than that, we are all one in Messiah. Right? Alright. Okay, so now watch this. Philippians. Remember, they believed in limited goods. Let me give you another example of this and I move on. I got a little time, so I'm trying to give you a big foundation, okay? Are we doing okay? You tired? Because when people leave, they fall asleep.
Carry on.
Remember when David came in and he killed a whole bunch of people? And then all of a sudden now the people says, and David, he starts singing for David. And he kills 10,000 and Saul kills 1,000. And Saul got really upset. Right? And from that moment on, David was an enemy.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. If it's an honor and shame society, and then all of a sudden, this little bitty guy called David, that all of the community now gives him more honor than the king of Israel. No wonder the king felt like my kingdom has been threatened. So he says, I need to destroy the guy who may take over my kingdom. That's an example of honor and shame. A zero-sum economy. Are we doing so far? Now watch this. Philippians 1. Read it with me. Can somebody read for me, please? Someone, just anyway.
My earnest expectation and my hope that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but that with all boldness as always, so now also, the Messiah shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death. For to me to live is Messiah, and to die is gain.
Now remember, if you live in a zero-sum economy, and do you believe that honor only belongs to certain people? And the Roman way of eternal life was non-existent. The Roman way of eternal life is, they cannot guarantee that. So Paul is saying, to me, to live is Messiah. And to die is gain. I don't lose anything. I'm going to have the one thing that no other God, not even Caesar, can provide. Eternal life. Talking about taking the gospel to a society that I was desperately looking for a better hope. No wonder it spread through the whole kingdom so fast. Because you can take a slave and you can tell him, hey, you're a slave today. But if you're a slave serving Messiah, you're going to have better rights and more equity than you will be a slave serving the Romans. So don't worry about it. Just do your thing. Have your faith in Messiah. Because when you die, you're going to have eternal life. See, Paul could not give freedom to any slave. He could not do that. He didn't have the right to do that. But he can tell them that there was freedom in Messiah. That in Messiah you have the freedom that when we were together, let's say that I'm the upper class and you are middle class, and I'm not picking on you, I'm just, you just like freedmen and there's no slaves over here. According to society, there's a distinction. But when we all meet together in the gospel, we're all one. And that's what Paul's trying to tell them. It's like, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, can you imagine Paul says, because the Messiah, to all those people, there's neither Jew or Gentile, slave or freedman, this or that. I mean, what a message! It was revolutionary. To take the message of righteousness and equity to a people who were oppressed. Okay? Next, let's talk about honor status reversal. And I'm going to give you a foundation. And then I'm going to take it to the cross. What does the cross represent? Honor status reversal is when, let me define the terms for you. Honor status reversal is a major motif in the Word of God. It says, honor status reversal is when a person, you don't mind if I tell you?
No.
Thank you. Honor status reversal is when a person, family, or people have whatever degree of esteem, respect, privilege, power, or authority before community. Turn the other way around. An example. Have you been following with the news in the United States with Bill Cosby?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Talk about going from honor to shame.
Yes.
Right? Pete Rose, the former baseball player, he went from the best hitter in baseball that he can never get into the Hall of Fame. You know, guys that are athletes and they do something wrong and they fall and no one respects them. That is an honor status reversal. You can go from honor to shame, from shame to honor, or from honor, shame, honor, or from shame, honor, shame. Right here. You can go from honor, shame, honor. You can go from shame to honor. You can go from shame to honor to shame, or from honor to shame. Are you following that?
Yes.
Now Israel, in their history, goes from honor, shame, honor, shame, honor, shame, honor, shame, honor, shame, honor. No, seriously, follow the story. Mount Sinai was the greatest honor ever bestowed upon them. Talk about going from shame, slavery, to honor on Mount Sinai. Equitable laws, righteous laws for everyone. And then they commit the sin of the golden calf, shame. And then they're restored, honor. And then they complain about something else, shame. And then, we never learn our lesson. Right? Alright, so it says, one's honor status can be high or low or in between, ranging from the lowest honor status of a leper or slave to the immensely powerful high honor status of a mighty king. Everyone in honor-shame cultures know their level of honor relative to everyone else in their community. There are two types of honor reversals. Read it with me. The end result is honor, right? Honor, shame to honor. Right here. Honor, shame, honor. Or shame to honor. Or shame to honor, shame. Honor to shame. Now, listen. I've done this research. It's fascinating. Go through Scripture, and you're going to find those patterns all through. Genesis. Adam and Eve, perfect presence of the King. They're naked. They're not shamed. And now you're going to notice all of the verses that says shame. Like this one right here that we read a little while ago. Do you know where it also says that? In Romans chapters 10, verse 9, 10, and 11. Confession of faith. How many of you read verse 11 and 12? Let's go read it. Let's go read Romans chapter 10. Come on. Read it with me. Romans chapter 10. Then you guys work me out. By the way, I got to tell you, thank you for being here. You know, it is encouraging to me because I'm not looking for numbers. I was just doing a teaching last month in front of 1,500 people. You know, and it's like sometimes smaller groups I have better time because I can take my time, I can get to know you, we can get to talk, we can establish friendships and relationships, you know, and it's like I got tired of trying to seek out after the masses a long time ago. And I so appreciate you taking the time to drive over here and give me the opportunity to share. I don't take that lightly. And if I say something to offend you in the language, because I'm from America and I'm learning different words that may be offensive, please have grace and forgive me. That's not my intent to offend anybody, okay? And we have different words and things like that. I have to do that in Latin America too, so it's even more challenging. So many different dialects and stuff. So I just want to let you know that I so appreciate you here. Thank you so much for giving me the chance. And I pray that it's a blessing to you.
Yes.
All right. Listen to this. Let's read this together. In verse 9 of chapter 10. That if you confess with your mouth that the Lord Messiah, Yeshua, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. For with the heart one believes to righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made to salvation. Verse 11, read it with me. For the scripture says, whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. You know what's amazing? People never read verse 11. Isn't there a verse that goes like this? I am not ashamed of the gospel of Yeshua the Messiah.
Yes.
Now look at the whole language of shame in the New Testament. You're going to be blown away. It's everywhere, but we never see it. Because we never focused on it. Okay, you know how I can compare this to? Remember when you bought the first car and you went to the dealership and you bought this car and you bought this different color and you go like, surely I got the best car. Until you buy it, you pull out of the dealership and then everybody has a car. And then you never notice that brand, that color, until you bought the car. Then you notice that everybody has it. It happens to me with suitcases. I travel so much. So I try to buy the most different ones I can find, with some weird colors sometimes, because surely no one's going to buy that ugly color, you know? And then when I buy it, there's thousands of just like it. There was one time I picked one up and started walking, I recognized it, I go, wait a minute. It's a little heavier than the one. It wasn't mine, it's exactly the same. You know, that's what I mean. So when you go to scripture, you start seeing it. Like Adam and Eve. They're naked, they're not ashamed. They sin, they're naked, and they're ashamed, and they're expelled from the land. Follows a biblical pattern from that moment on. Every time Israel disobeys the Torah, the Bible says they are as naked. In the book of Hosea. All throughout. Why? Because it represents shame. You should not expose your father's nakedness. When you sleep with that person, you sleep with that person. Remember? Because then you're shaming the father. See what I mean? Are you with me? Yes. And then after they were shamed by their sin, they lost the inheritance God gave them. They were kicked out of the garden because of their disobedience. So what is the Lord going to do? He promised Adam and Eve and Abraham, so he needs to restore their honor. And restore the honor of the descendants of Abraham. And what does he need to do? Take them back to the land. To restore your honor. That's why the Muslims want to destroy the borders and create the caliphate. Because that was the greatest empire they have, almost 700 years. So therefore, that's the honor they're trying to restore. So we don't look at it. That's why they'll do whatever, they'll die for it. Because to them, dying to preserve their honor is greater than living a life of shame. Remember that. Okay? Living a life of shame. I was telling you a little bit about the video that I saw on Facebook about two men from India that were raping women. And they caught them. So they stripped them naked, tied them up to something, and all the women in the community will come with their shoes, start slapping them. Smacking them. And they recorded it. Did you realize that those two guys much rather die than to go through that shaming in front of everybody? Because from that moment on, there will be forever shame in that community. Forever. And in a shame and honor culture, you don't want to live a life of disgrace. You don't want to live a life of shame. That's terrible. That's why in the Bible, a leper was a state of shame continually. Every time he went over, unclean, unclean. Everybody who he was, he cannot So what did Yeshua do? He restored the lepers. And how many of you have never studied the whole procedure of how to sanctify a leper to allow him to be back in the community again? Fascinating. I'm telling you, you'll be shocked. No wonder. You would have. See, you read the story about the 10 lepers that Yeshua healed, and Yeshua told them, go to the temple. Do what you need to do. Did you realize the chaos that would have happened in the temple? I mean, they knew who these guys were. The priests knew who they were. And now little Johnny's coming in and said, what are you doing here? You're a leper. And all the procedure he had to go through. And he says, no, man, I'm cleansed. You know what they have to cleanse them? They have to present themselves before the Lord by the Nicanor gate. And they have to stick their little finger through. And the priests stick their finger through a little door right here next to the Nicanor gate. And then anoint their ear and their thumb and their big toe. This is the way it was done. With oil and with blood. To restore them and to honor the society again. And after they were received into the community, you can no longer call them a leper. So let's talk about reversal of honor. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Hallelujah. Now, the humiliation and exaltation of Messiah. Now you go in the Philippians tells you about this. He went from honor to shame to honor. Let me take a little break here and tell you a little bit about the shame of the cross. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you about righteousness and justice. It's going to be a long teaching about what the cross, what the tree represented from an ancient Near Eastern righteousness and justice. This is the other side of the cross. The cross was, the punishment of the cross was really invented by the Persians. But the Romans became really good at it. And it was the highest level of shaming anybody in the first century and before that. By the way, the Torah says you are not to leave a man hanging on a tree. If somebody did, even if he sinned, okay, you can hang him on a tree, but don't leave him overnight. Because that is curse. And it's what's shameful. It was the most despicable type of shaming you can do. The cross, ladies and gentlemen. The cross in the first century, this is a fascinating thing. Because, man, the Romans, they really mastered crucifixion. And it was done as the highest level of humiliation possible to a human being. Now you have to remember, and this is something I need you to repeat with me. The shame of one shames the whole nation. The honor of one is carried by the whole nation. So Yeshua carried our shame so that we can be restored to a position of honor. Because Israel is in a state of shame, like you said. So Yeshua died by the most humiliating death, and accepting that, he carries our shame, so that now, through him, we have access to present ourselves before the King as honorable people. When the world wants to persecute us, they're trying to bring shame to a holy people, shame to an honorable people, because once God gives you something, he cannot take it back. So when he declares you righteous, and he declares you honorable, and somebody tries to remove that honor from you, then they declare war on the ones who gave you the honor. That's why the Great Tribulation is so significant, because it's the anti-Messiah trying to strip us out of our honor. But how do you do it? By dehumanizing people. The cross, it was the most shameful way of death in the first century. And you don't want to die by it. Even the way they put the nails through your body, it was not in the hand, it was around here and in the feet. But the way they would do it to a particular meridian nerve, that would be so painful every time you move. It was done by design. They got really good at it. They were ruthless. I mean, you do not want to die by the cross, because if you die by the cross, not only would you be shameful, but you suffer the most incredible pain as you do that. And that'll bring shame to your whole family and to your country. Okay? So listen to what it says in Philippians 2 in regards to the reversal, what is it called? Status reversal. Can somebody read it for me, please? Somebody?
Have this in your mind, which was also Messiah Yeshua, who existing in the form of God, didn't consider equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being made in the likeness of men, and being found in human form. He humbled himself, becoming obedient to death, yes, the death of the cross.
Okay, stop there for a minute. So, he took obedience to death, even the death of the cross. But what we need to realize is what the cross represented to the Romans. The cross, according to the Romans, represented Roman power, Roman sovereignty, Roman authority, Roman everything. In other words, you die by the cross, you cannot overcome that death. Not only will you be shameful, but at the same token, in the eyes of the nation watching this, they're saying Rome is powerful. You have no chance at all to vindicate yourself. They have no chance whatsoever to restore your honor. You have no chance at all to be a dignified, honorable person anymore. I mean, it was devastating, because that shame that you suffered is an acknowledgement to the power, the so-called power of Caesar, and the power of Imperial Rome. Is that making sense? Okay, so now what happens is that as we go, we understand what the cross represented, not as a sign of a faith in this case, but as a sign of power of a system of an oppressive nature, as Romans were. That it represented the power, the authority, that Caesar has sovereignty over everything, even your life. Think about that. Okay? So now, let me give you the examples of honor and shame, and the restoration of honor, from honor to shame, shame to honor in the Bible, and then we go into the cross. Okay? Adam and Eve, they went from honor to shame. That's why it says they were both naked, man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. I'm telling you, you're going to find the word shame everywhere in the Bible. By the way, in the New Testament, the word glory, in the Greek is doxa, the word should be honor. Like in the traditional Judaism, when you come up to read the parasha, the Torah portion, everybody says kavod, which means honor. In Hebrew, honor and shame is kavod vevusha. Kavod vevusha. When you talk to an Orthodox and tell them, next time you go to Israel and you see an Orthodox, says, I'm studying the concepts in the Bible about kavod vevusha, he's going to give you a smile, because they understand that principle. The Siddur, the prayer book, is based on that principle. On honor and shame, the preserving the honor of the Lord, righteousness and justice, kingship and vassalship. The whole prayers. Psalms is acknowledging that he's our king, that we are the servants, that he is righteous, and that he's honorable, and we are his people. It simplifies the whole Bible. I'm going to start doing a yeshiva. I have a yeshiva on my website, and I did teachings 12 hours on the ancient Near East. I did a whole book on the righteousness and justice, and now I'm going to do a whole book research on honor and shame. So that then, when you go through the Bible, you're going to see it everywhere. It's fascinating. Shabbat is about honoring the Father on the day he set aside. The feast is about honoring the King on the time we pay tribute to him. Eating clean is honoring the Father with our bodies, because he gave us a gift, and we want to honor him by eating clean. Obey the commandments brings honor to us, to be called his people, to have rights that no one has, to have blessings from the great King of the universe. Okay? There we go. Next. Abraham. He went from honor to shame to honor. He came from Ur. He was an honorable person. He went to Egypt. He suffered what he suffered, and his kingdom was, his honor was restored later on. Joseph, that's a prime example of honor, shame, honor. Now what happens when he is restored in honor? He was given what? A bride, new garments, signet ring, and a new name. And the book of Revelation says that we're going to receive a new name, a stone, new garments, and we will eat with Messiah. Just like Joseph ate with his brothers when there was full restoration. Just say one hallelujah or something. Pentecostal came out. Moses, he went from shame, actually, Moses went from honor, shame, honor. He was a prince to shame by going into exile, to honor by being a prince to the Lord too. Okay? King Saul went from honor to shame, David from shame to honor. And this is why I'm going to highlight the story of David. Goliath, if you read the story now, read it from the concept of honor and shame. Goliath is profaning the name of the God of Israel, shaming the name of the God of Israel. King Saul did not want to wage war against Goliath. He was afraid. Understand how shameful that was to all of Israel, because the king was put there by the God of Israel. That's why in the ancient world, the kings always led to battle. Always. Because they believed in the ancient world, you have the kings and religion was intertwined. The king was a representative of the gods in their countries. So if they went to battle, he had to lead them into battle, and if he won, then he brings honor to himself and to his God. If he lost, then people just said, okay, we'll accept your God, because your God is greater. That's why in those days, it was easy. You fight against my kingdom, when we beat you and your king, that means that he is the representative of your God. That means he's weak. He died, the whole kingdom becomes yours, and everybody accepts your God because he's greater. Is it so? King Saul did not want to go to war. And David comes around. Remember, David was a little bitty guy nobody wanted. When Shmuel went to the house of Jesse, he says, hey, get all your children. And they remember everybody except David. Hey, he's the most despised. He's the youngest. Nobody wants him. Then all of a sudden now, was anybody else? Oh, the youngest one. Can you imagine the oldest one in that family? And the second one, third one, fourth one, and then all of a sudden now, oh, David? He's the least of us. And I think that's why Yahweh chose him. Because he has something. He had a zeal for the Torah. He had a zeal for righteousness. And when David saw that the king of Israel, who's supposed to be the representative of the God of Israel, refused to engage Goliath, and he allowed Goliath to defile the name and the integrity and the honor of the king of Israel, he stood up and he says, who is this uncircumcised? In other words, how dare you allow this guy to defile the name of our God? I'll go fight. Can you imagine? And they tried all the arms and all this stuff. He goes, forget that. Let me go get 5 stones. How come he picked 5 stones? He had 4 older brothers. You can call it Torah, yes. But David prepared himself. He says, I'm going to take care of David, but I know he's got 4 older brothers, so let me get 5 stones. I mean, you talk about preparation in time of trouble. He wasn't stupid. He says, all I need is 1 stone to get this guy, but he's got 4 older brothers. So now David says, you come to me with spear and all that stuff, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. In the name. Many people think like, oh, the name, that means that you have to pronounce it perfectly. That's not one translation of that. The name in the ancient world represented your integrity, your honor, your character, and your righteousness. You can have the best pronunciation of the name of God. But if you don't do righteousness and justice, you don't take care of the homeless and the widows, and you don't take care of the needy, it means nothing. Because then you're using his name, and you're not acting according to the character of the name that you're trying to convey. You follow? All right. So David had the victory because he was defending the honor of the God of Israel that this guy is profaning. And that's what the Antichrist is going to do. And that's what the Muslims are trying to do. And that's what the nations are trying to do with the God of Israel. And every time the United Nations choose to fight against Israel, they are trying to fight against the honor of the one who put his name in the mountains of Samaria. Okay? Next, let's move on. So now, let's talk about crucifixion. Let me review quickly. Crucifixion was the most ruthless method of punishment in the Roman Empire. It was the greatest act of shaming someone. I mean, with no hope to regain your honor. Remember. But have you ever studied you see Yeshua on the cross, or you see, by the way, let me talk about that. They put Jesus on the cross nowadays. You notice that? You go to certain churches that have a Jesus hanging on the cross. Do you realize that is imperial worship? And do you realize that that is actually a curse? Because the Bible says not to leave a man hanging on a tree. Do you realize that Yeshua was not left hanging on a tree? That Yeshua was exalted to the right hand of the Father? The Messiah that I serve is not hanging on a tree. The Messiah that I follow is sitting at the right hand of the Father in majesty in the heavens. So when you see the Pope holding a staff with a dead Christ in it, that's not the Messiah I'm serving. That is actually imperial worship, and that is actually shaming my Messiah. That is a shameful nature. And that's why I will not stand with it. But I understand that the cross, the tree, or the tree, is not something that I'm afraid of anymore, because I understand now what it means. There was a transformation of the tree from a sign of curse, shaming, to the sign of honor. How does that happen? Have you ever studied what happens to the body when you crucify? How many of you have studied what happens to you with the pain? People focus on the pain. But have you ever connected dying on the tree on the crucifixion? The pain, but when it carries deep shame, combining both. Every Christian person focuses on the pain of the tree. Pain that he suffered on the tree. But hardly ever we focused on the shame he suffered, hanging on that tree, going through that pain. But once we understand what's shameful, what it meant, every step that the Romans took and they did was an act of profaning him and shaming him to the deepest level. To the level of complete shame. Resurrection, on the other hand, is the vindication. The restoration of honor of an accusation of somebody who was innocent, who was willing to take your shame and my shame, so that now we can be called the sons of the living God. That's why I'm zealous about the Torah. Because I know now what Yeshua suffered, not only in pain, but in shame. And that's why anybody who rejects Messiah is no longer my friend. You reject Messiah, there's nothing to talk about. Maybe, hey, you're a nice guy, whatever, but you reject my Messiah, you're no longer my friend. That's treason. Now, if you have a need and your life is in danger, it's a different story. But I have nothing to talk to you about. You just committed treason and now you're my enemy. Crucifixion and shaming. You can find this in Despising the Shame of the Cross, Honor and Shame, by Jerome Neary. Very good article. Crucifixion was used, read it with me, was used for slaves, bandits, prisoners of war, and political revolutionaries. Ladies and gentlemen, my Messiah was looked upon as a revolutionary and a prisoner of war. My Messiah was looked like as a bandit and a slave. The Romans treated him like that. The Romans shamed him like that. My Messiah suffered that so that I could be here today sharing the Torah of his Father so the nations can be restored. Next, public trials served as a status degradation ritual which labeled the accused as a shameful person. Flogging and torture, especially blinding and shedding of blood, generally accompanied the sentence. This was done front and back in the nude. Was Yeshua naked? They undressed him, correct? But look at this. The person will be befouling themselves. You lose all bodily functions. We are honorable people because my Messiah was willing to be shamed in that fashion. Befouling himself, so that now we come into his kingdom and we tell him what to do, and we demand that he does whatever we want, and we decree, and we demand, and we don't even obey the most basic principles of his Torah. And he's the one who's willing to get on that tree for us. to lose all kinds of power in his body, to be treated as a revolutionary, as a bandit, as a slave, befouled. I can even imagine my Messiah doing that. And he did it for us. That's what the body goes through. The nails going through his body, in the head, in the wrist, and in the leg was designed so that every time he will move, he will have excruciating pain all the way through, suffocating himself. That really gets me right here. To think about my Messiah hanging on that tree, befouling himself in the midst of everybody. Everybody got to see my Messiah naked. Everybody got to see my Messiah being shamed. Everybody got to see my Messiah being put to scorn. Everybody got to see my Messiah just befouling himself because he loves us enough to follow the plan of his Father. So that now we come to his kingdom of the Father through Yeshua, through the work of righteousness, through the work of redemption, taking our shame, so that now we come to his kingdom, dividing his kingdom. So that we can come and change my king's laws. So we can come shame one another because we don't agree with the theology position. Who do we think we are? None of us would dare go through that. None of us, starting with myself. I'm not that brave. But that's what makes him who he is. And my Messiah needs to be respected and be put in a position of honor. If you reject my Messiah, then you reject me. Because he took my shame so that I can be here as a servant of the King. So I can be here as a servant teaching the words of his Father. So that I can take the nations. Listen, I go all over the world teaching the Torah to the nations. And I'll go to one if I have to. Because if one will bring honor to my Messiah, then so be it. Then I go to one. You know? We need to know who we are. We need to know our place. We need to know that what he did for us. Oh, he suffered for me. Why did he suffer? How come 99.9% of the Christians have no idea about this stuff? Oh, he suffered. What kind of suffering? Because if we really understood that it was beyond physical punishment, it was the shame that his family had to carry. All the disciples carried that shame. I mean, which Peter do you want to be? You want to be the Peter who rejected him? But then after Yeshua resurrected, the same Peter was willing to die to preserve the honor of this Messiah. So obviously the resurrection had to mean something. Because they rejected him, and then after that he says, oh my, we're willing to die, no matter what, to preserve your honor. Because they recognized what was going on. Next, the condemned was forced to carry the crossbeam. That was a method of punishment and shame. The victim's property, normally clothing, was confiscated to shame them with nudity. Israel has been shamed. So you were right, my brother. Israel among the nations is naked. Among the nations. And because of the nakedness of Israel and the death penalty that they were supposed to incur, Yeshua says, I'm willing to take their shame and their penalty so that my Father can be honored, so that his name will not be defiled among the nations. Isn't that what Moses did on the mountain? When the children of Israel worshipped the golden calf, the Lord rightfully so wanted to eliminate everybody. He told Moses, Moses, I have an idea. Let's just get rid of all the women and start back with you. Did you know that if he would have done it, if Moses says, good idea, let's do that, that the Lord would have not broken his word to Abraham? Because Moses was a descendant of Abraham? But Moses understood about character, about honor. And what did he say? I'm going to paraphrase. What will they say about you? That you promised the children of Israel you take them to the land and you will not do that? Moses was more concerned about the honor of the Heavenly Father that he says, no, you don't understand. Blot me out. I'd rather die than your name be profaned. I'd rather die than your character being in question. I'd rather die than the nations say that you don't keep your word that you gave to our forefathers. That's the servant that I want to become. That no matter what happens when things get difficult, that I will stand on the gap and say, I'd rather die, but you're not going to shame my king. I'd rather die, but you're not going to dishonor my Father in the heavens. I'd rather die than my Messiah being dishonored. Amen? Amen. Executions. Loss of power and thus honor through pinioning and the hands and through nailings. Executions were public entertainment where the crowd will mock the victims. Sometimes the person will be affixed in an odd and whimsical manner. Slow and protracted death. Powerless victims suffer bodily distortion, loss of bodily control, on an erection. No chance for vengeance. We never think about that. Can you imagine you, Messiah, on the tree like that? And what did he say? Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. I mean, think about it. My Messiah suffering all of that shame so that you and I can be sitting here today and have access to the kingdom. I mean, think about it. Messiah could have said, okay, Father, I know you love me, but this is harder than I thought. Why don't we just send a few billion angels and just eliminate all the Romans? Nah. He could have done that. He could have said, hey, why don't we just, I had enough. I think I've proven the point. Am I loyal to you now? Can you send some angels to get rid of all this nonsense, please? Might as well. Why don't we just destroy the whole earth and start from scratch? He didn't do that. He took it. He received it. That's how much he loves us. I don't comprehend it. I don't get it. I really don't. That with all the things he did, he pulled all that aside and says, I'm here for a mission. I'm here to bring the message of the great Father. And they don't realize that he's the messenger, right? He brought the message of the Father. And when they kill Yeshua, they're declaring war on the Father. They shame the messenger. You shame the messenger is as if you do it to him. So before we change anything in the Bible, we have to consider that if we shame the Messiah, we're shaming the Father. So now, listen to this. It says, in many cases, victims were denied honorable burial. Corpses were left on display and devoured by birds and animals. Pain, read this with me. Pain was not shameful, as many warriors endured pain. However, the silence of the victim during torture was a mark of my Messiah, going through the worst shaming process known to men in the first century. He still kept silent. Even though he was being shamed, he never said a word. So he took the shame with honor. That's the character of my Messiah. Okay? He was spit on him, striking him in the face and the head, ridicule him, heaping insults on him, carrying the crossbeam, stripping his clothes, public crucifixion. That's the work of my Messiah. My Messiah suffered all of that so that you and I can be here today in a reverse honor status. From shame to honor. He did all that so that he can reverse the status of Israel from shame to honor. That's why he says, I did not come except to the house of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Because they were dispersed. Therefore, they were in shame. So he wanted to restore the honor of all of Israel. And restore the honor of society. That's what Paul is arguing with them. Arguing with the Jews. He is saying, this people can be in the kingdom. You don't need to keep the law for salvation. It's a gift. The Torah is for obedience. You're going to restrict the honor to them that Yeshua not only came to give you, but also to all of humanity? Because the duty of Israel was to bring righteousness to all the nations. To bring it to all the nations. In other words, Israel is supposed to be the light unto the world. It's supposed to be the salt of the world. It's supposed to be the example of the honor that God bestowed upon them so that now they can share with somebody else. So the duty of Israel is to lift up the honor of one another. Take care of the needy, the homeless, the widows. Treat them with equity and justice. So that then the person will say, man, your God is righteous. He sent you to help me. Your God is equitable. You don't treat me like my God and my people. Can I follow you? Can I follow the God you serve? Can I serve and can I be committed to that covenant? Because so far, the God you serve gives you blessings and gives you protection and gives you honor. What do people do? Argue about seats all day long. Seriously. Let me tell you how much he loves you. The prodigal son story. And I'll finish with this. How many of you focus only on the prodigal son? Oh, we are the prodigal son, but no one focuses on the older brother. Do you know that they both equally shamed their father? Let me go to the story. You already know, so I don't really have to go into too much detail. But why is it that the father, when he saw the younger brother come back in a shameful state? See, you have to understand that even Talmud talks about this, that to lose your inheritance, not only asking your inheritance to your father when he's alive, big no-no. That's like, you don't do that. That's shaming your father. But then going to the nations and losing the inheritance that he gave you among the Gentiles was the worst type of shame you can bring to your family name. And the younger brother recognized this. And what did he say when he wanted to return home? If I can?
Sin against God.
He sinned against God, right? But then what else did he say? If I could be what? A servant. Did he come back to the house wanting to change all the laws of his father? No, he came humbly to be a servant. Right? Who took care of the older brother? When the older brother didn't want to go to the party, who took care of the older brother? The father, right? Because the older brother, even though he was in the house, he rejected the kindness of his father towards the younger brother and equally shamed him by not going to the party. Who? But who took care of the older brother? Come on. The father. So why don't we let the father take care of my brother the Judah? Why don't we let the father take care of the Jews? We've come from the nations. We don't deserve any inheritance. We are in a state of shame. And we can only be in a position of honor now because of Yeshua Messiah and what he suffered through. Instead of us coming as servants just to serve the house, we want to tell the king what to do. And we want to tell the Jews, you don't belong anymore. And we don't want to do anything you do in the house. We're messing it up. But the question is, how and why did the father run to the younger son, uncovering his nakedness? He girded his loins, exposing his legs. And in the first century, a father would never go to the son would always go to the father. And he ran through the city to the village to go meet his son out there. Why did he do that according to Honor and Shame Society? There was a particular ritual that the book that I got from you, another book you wrote, talks about. It's called the Kezazah. Kezazah, according to some rabbinical circles, there was a culture, there was a tradition, a ritual that was done for people who would bring shame to a community, to a village. If you go out and you shame your village and your family and the community, remember, by shaming your father and his house, you've shamed the whole community. Okay? That's why in Israel, when somebody sinned against the Lord, there was judgment on everybody. You notice that in the Bible? People don't understand it. It's just that this one brought shame to the whole community, everybody pays, because you all want a Messiah. Okay, anyway. So, Kezazah is, they take an earthenware vessel, a clay vessel, and they take roasted nuts. And then when the person, especially somebody who takes the inheritance of a father and spends it in the Gentile nations, comes back with shame. Okay? They will take that clay pot and they take it to the gate of the city. The community will gather together and they will tell that guy coming back, he says, you're no longer accepted in this community. And they will break the pot on the ground and he will never be welcome. Ever be welcome. He will be outcast forever. Living in shame the rest of his life. Never have any hope to restore honor in his community and his family. But don't you think the father knew that? So he sees the son from afar, and what does he do? He uncovers his nakedness. And he runs through the community and everybody sees him. And when he sees his son, he says, he is alive, he's alive. And what does he do? He brings them signet ring, garments, shoes, and a covenantal meal. The father, before the city can shame him, the father restored his honor into the family, not caring what he did in the past. The father took shame of his son so that his son could be restored into his family. This is the gospel. Yeshua was sent by the Father so that symbolically through Yeshua the Father is experiencing the shame so that you and I can be restored with a new name, with authority, with an inheritance, with new garments, and be a kingdom to our King. All of that just because he made a promise to Abraham. All of that because he gave his word to Abraham, somebody that we've never known. And we would have never known about him if it wasn't for the Torah. So yes, Christianity did something right. Christianity taught us there was a man called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They may not follow the Torah, but they taught us the stories of the Old Testament. So that now you would understand better what Yeshua did for you. Will you please stand up? That's why it bothers me. It hurts me so much. When we as a people, we come from, it wasn't very long. How many of you have been following the Torah more than 5 years here? 10 years. Anybody? 10 years. Less than 10 years. Less than 10 years. And I've been doing it 17, and the more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes.
I'm not anybody who's been following my website knows that I've learned more the last 4 years than all my previous years combined. How can I take the words of my King and not pretend that I know more than anyone? When every month and every year I'm learning something new that is reshaping my mind, it's reshaping my heart, it's reshaping my life, my commitment, my zeal. People always say, how come you're so zealous? You're so passionate. How can I not? I should have died a long time ago. And the King of the universe, for some reason, had mercy on me. Not only did he restore me, did he give me a family, he restored my relationship with my sons, he gave me a wife who loves me, and then he says, will you take my Torah to the nations? Will you take my heart to the nations? Will you teach them about my commandments? Why would he trust me and you to do that? Who are we? I mean, think about it. Why would he feel compelled to reveal himself to you when we were in idolatry and rebellion and disobedience and complete rebellion in the church system? We want nothing to do with the God of Israel, but then we got so tired of the whole systems of religion, we call out to some God of Israel, and he actually heard your prayer. And you know why he heard your prayer? Because of my Messiah took the shame, so that now you can be restored, and that your honor come from shame to honor, just because you say in the name of Yeshua. And when you say the name of Yeshua, everything that encompasses him, everything he represents, the messenger, the son of the living Elohim, the high priest, our future king, and the one who took the shame of the cross, so that now in the name of the integrity that he bare on the earth, now the Father hears your prayer, because he honors him. Not because of us, because he honors what he did. And he says, if they say it in your name, then they're good with me. How can I ask them to come? So that now we come to this kingdom that doesn't belong to us, that by grace through faith we got, that we have an inheritance, we will get a new name, we have righteous laws, we have the commandments of the king, we have a status, we have an honor to come to his kingdom and disrespect him, by then change his commandments, by changing his feasts, by not wanting to fellowship, by doing your own will. Who do we think we are? We're supposed to be the sons of the living God, an example of his righteousness and justice. And we have taken the most precious thing, his Torah, to divide his kingdom. Whom do you want to be? The servant who divides the house, or the servant who wants to serve? We need to make our choices, because you are the remnant. You're it, guys. All of England depends on you. This is no joke, this is serious.
No joke. No joke.
You never thought about it. This country depends on your prayers. Because the remnant, and there's more than 10 here, and because of your righteousness, and because of your justice, and because of your prayers of mercy for the king, he will incline his ear. You know why he will hear to your prayer? Not because we're that special, but because he keeps his word and he says, those who cry out to me, I will incline my ear and hear. That's all we got. That's our only hope, man. So let me ask you a question. After all of this, do you agree we need to repent?
Yes.
Because we never really valued the work of Messiah. We thought we did. So now we see the cross, my sister, and now we criticize it because of the hurt we had in the past. When in fact, when I see a cross, I delight. You know why? Because I know that my Messiah, he beat the shame of what that cross used to represent. And now the tree represents victory. Now I don't wear a cross. I don't need to wear a cross. I don't need to wear it. I'm surely not going to put a Jesus on it. Because then I'm shaming him all over again. Ladies and gentlemen, with all this, if you remember anything that I'm trying to tell you, please remember to honor our King. To exalt him. Honor the Father. Exalt him and praise him on everything. Let's put our agendas aside. None of us know anything. None of us, including me. We don't know anything. How much have we learned since yesterday? How much have we learned since yesterday? A lot, right? So why do we divide his kingdom? Why do we put ourselves in positions that we make decisions without really being sure? And it starts with the teachers. And you know what, something? I repent. Me and my house, we have sinned. It starts with us. If we're so-called leaders, that we need to lead by example. And I repent if I've ever taught anything that will cause any division. If I've taught anything that caused any confusion. That will be the farthest thing from my mind. What would you rather Messiah say to you in the kingdom? Can you imagine? You in the kingdom, the millennial reign. Messiah is dwelling amongst his people. The king shows up amongst the court of Israel. Everybody's there from Adam all the way to Malachi. Everybody's there just watching. And then we are. There's Paul, Peter, everybody. We're there. And then Yeshua sees you from afar. He's walking by. Everybody's in awe of the king in the midst of the congregation. And then all of a sudden now he catches your eye. And then he starts walking towards you. How would you feel? I don't know what I would do. Because I believe in this Messiah even though I've never seen him. I don't know what he looks like, nor do I care. I know he's my Messiah. When he comes, I don't know what he looks like. I didn't even know his real name until 17 years ago. Then he'll come to you and says, good and faithful servant. Thank you for honoring my Father. Thank you for being loyal when people told you he did not exist. Thank you for not believing in evolution. Thank you for being faithful to the commandments. Come, I want to introduce you to my Father. I want you to eat. I want to eat with you. Or would you rather have him come to you and says, excuse me, sir, when did I ever tell you to change my feast? Did I ever change the feast of my Father? When did I ever tell you to change the name of my Father? Did I ever make an argument about the name, whether it's Yahweh, Yahuwah, Ahavah, or Yahweh? Did I ever tell you not to fellowship with each other? When was the last time you took care of the homeless and the widows and needy? What did I do? Did I raise up the honor of those people in need? Why did you oppress the brother? Which one would you rather? I want to be the one that I pray he finds for you. You don't understand, that's my only fear in this world. That I go all over the world and then when it's all said and done, my Messiah sees me and he will not be happy to see me. Because I did not honor him the way he deserves. And I did not honor his Father the way he did. If he bare the shame for us, what gives us the right to think we know anything? When none of us will have enough strength to bear that punishment or bear that shame. That's how much he loves us, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, he loves you so much that I want you to be focused. Follow the cloud. Just follow the cloud. Yes, things will get difficult. Yes, economic collapse will come eventually. Yes, guillotines, whatever. So what? My king will restore his kingdom. My king will restore his people. And if you die, he will resurrect you. What else can he do for you? So you suffer a little shame today. But it's not even going to be close to what he went through. And if you ask all the Christians in Iraq right now, you will think they're going through the Great Tribulation right now. And where are the nations? Standing up with him. Where are the people who believe in the God of Israel? When was the last time we prayed for them? And we have a lot to do. All of us, including myself. And I don't want to make that mistake. And my passion is because I finally recognize that I do not understand why He has so much mercy on us. And I'll do whatever it takes to share my heart with you. You don't have to believe me. I hope you don't verify everything I say. But let my King be exalted. Let the Father sitting on the throne be praised. Let His name be uplifted. Let Him be revered. And Israel, do you consider Israel? Do you consider yourself part of Israel? Yes. Then know your place, Israel. Act like Israel. Be honorable people. Righteousness and justice of the King. For that is your mandate. My King deserves honor. My King deserves grace. My King deserves respect and reverence. When you are talking to my King, you do it in a way that He deserves to be spoken to. When you keep His commandments, do it not because you have to, but because you delight to honor Him, because He just said to do it.
Hallelujah.
When you do that feast, you don't have the legal jurisdiction to change anything. You do it when He says to do it, because He's the King and He's the one who owns you.
Hallelujah.
My King deserves all the respect, and we have lacked that. We've forgotten that. Because we take grace to an abusive point. You're just thankful He's a just God. Because if He was a fair God, we'd all be dead. And for that, I'm grateful that His mercy is everlasting to those who love Him. Because I have a history, and I should have been dead. I'm grateful. You have no idea. My passion is that I'm grateful, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to make a difference, at least in one person's life.
Hallelujah.
To share something that will raise your level of honor. To share something in the Torah that will make you aware of the wonderful things of my Torah, of the Torah of my King. That's what drives me. Amen?
Yes.
So with that being said, I'd like to finish with a song. It'll be Psalms 25 and 26. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul, I trust in you. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me. Indeed, let no one who waits on you be ashamed. Let those be ashamed who deal treacherously without cause. Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your path. Lead me in your truth and teach me. For you are the Elohim of my salvation. On you I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, your tender mercies and your loving kindness, for they have been from of old. Do not remember the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to your mercy, remember me for your goodness' sake, O Adonai. Good and upright is Adonai. Therefore he teaches sinners in the way. The humble he guides in justice. The humble he teaches his way. All the path of the Lord of mercy and truth, to such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. For your name's sake, O Lord. Pardon my iniquity, for it is great. Who is the man that fears the Lord? Him shall he teach the way he chooses. He himself shall dwell in prosperity, and his descendants shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn yourselves to me, and have mercy on me, for I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart have enlarged, O Adonai. Bring me out of my distress. Look on my affliction and my pain, and forgive all my sins. Consider my enemies, for there are many, and they hate me with cruel hatred. Oh, keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in you. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait for you. Redeem Israel, O Elohim, out of all their troubles. Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. I have also trusted in the Lord. I should not slip. Examine me, O Lord, and prove me. Try me in my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. I have not sat with idolatrous mourners, nor will I go into the hypocrites. I have hated the congregation of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. I will wash my hands in innocence. So I will go about your altar, O Adonai, and I will proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving and tell all your wonderful works. Adonai, I have loved the habitation of your house and the place where your glory dwells. Do not gather my soul together with sinners, nor my life with bloodthirsty men, in whose hands is a sinister scheme, and whose right hand is full of bribes. As for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be merciful to me. My foot stands in an even place. In the congregation, I will bless the Lord. Thank you, Father. We praise you. We uplift you. Thank you for you, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy upon me and answer me. When you say, seek my face, my heart said to you, your face, Lord, will I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not leave me nor forsake me, O Elohim of my salvation. When my father, my mother forsakes me, then the Lord will take care of me. Teach me your ways, O Lord, and lead me in a smooth path because of my enemies. Do not deliver me to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and such as breath of violence. I will have lost my heart unless I have believed, and I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. We thank you, we praise you, we uplift you. And to you, O Lord, I cry, rock of my salvation. Do not be silent to me, lest if you are silent to me, I become like those who go down in the pit. Hear the voice of my supplication when I cry to you, my King. When I lift up my hands towards your holy sanctuary, do not take me away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, who speak peace to their neighbors, but evil is in their hearts. Give to them according to their deeds, and according to the wickedness of their evil, of their endeavors. Give to them according to the work of their hands. Render to them what they deserve, because they do not regard the work of the Lord, nor the operation of his hands. He will destroy them and not build them up. Blessed be the Lord, because he has heard the voice of my supplications. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and I am helped. Therefore my heart greatly rejoices. With my song I will praise him. The Lord is his strength, and he is saving refuge of his anointed. Save your people and bless your inheritance. Shepherd them all also, and bear them up forever. Amen? Amen. We thank you, Father. We honor you, and I give you honor and praise for the privilege to come to this country and to have an audience who's willing to hear about your honor. Thank you for providing. Thank you for safety. Thank you for Marcus and his family that were willing to invite me over. I pray that everything I said, oh Lord, please, my King, everything I said is pleasing to you. We are your servants. We are your people, and we implore, we cry out to you, for you are our only hope. The whole world diminishes you. The whole world minimizes you. The whole world doesn't even think you exist, but yet we are witnesses, and we declare that you are true and right and righteous. That Adonai, Yahweh, Hu Elohim, that you are the one true God and there's no other. And we thank you for the honor, King, to be your people. The kingdom of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The kingdom of the God of creation. For the honor, oh Lord, just to be part of your kingdom. We are so grateful for the opportunity to come to you. Thank you for your Shabbat. Thank you for your commandments. And I pray that, again, like I said this morning, that I become the kingdom you deserve. In the name of Yeshua, we humbly ask you, by the merit of our Messiah, act for your name's sake. Act for your right hand's sake. Act for your Torah's sake. Act for your righteousness' sake. Do not delay. Act for your word's sake, for you never transgress your commandments. And you never take back your oath. You have promised, and I believe it. You have swore, and I will uphold it. My Father, my King. Remember, O King, gracious King, the covenant between the pieces, and may there appear before you the binding of your only Son, Yeshua, who took our shame, so that now we can present ourselves as your honorable people. because you have bestowed that honor on us. And for that we ask you to forgive us of our iniquities and our transgressions.
Yes.
We repent, we return to you.
Yes, Father.
We return to you. We want to learn your ways.
Yes.
And we want to live according to your statutes and your righteousness. So when people see us, they're not going to see a shameful people. They're going to say, ah, there goes the kingdom of the God of creation.
Yes.
Honorable people, blessed people, that we finally can be the witnesses you deserve.
Yes.
I want to thank you, Lord, for you to raise a remnant in this country. Awaken them, please, my King. It is time this country restore the honor that once is lost to you. And we are the people you have chosen. Give us the strength, the wisdom, the understanding, and discernment to live according to our mandate and to live according to our calling. And that when Messiah returns and when he sees us walking in the kingdom, he can give us a message from you that we have found favor in your eyes and that you are happy with our service. And that's what I pray, Lord. That in everything we are happy, that you'll be happy with our service to you. And so you will deserve. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Amen.
Yivrechecha Adonai Vish Merecha Yael Adonai Panav Elecha Vichuneka Yis Adonai Panav Elecha Ve'asem Lecha Lecha Shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen? You know what I find amazing about that? And it's like after everything God has done for us, after everything we've done wrong, after everything on the attitudes we have, he still blesses us.
Amen.